is such a lovely day to see you all, although I cannot see. Um, but of course, I'm here to share my journey. And the journey starts with a success story I've had in my childhood. I remember my sister had got a beautiful bicycle, and I had a shorter one, you know. When people are short, they have like short people problems. I couldn't ride a bigger cycle. And I asked my sister, can I take your cycle for a ride? She was not sure, but she finally agreed. And I had the cycle in my hand. I had this beautiful road in front of me, and I rode. I didn't know that was the first time I was riding that big cycle. I pedaled, and slowly the cycle started accelerating. I went ahead and I realized I could ride. Cold wind in my hair and big smile on my face. And I thought this was success. Oh, I struggled. I'm successful. But I was wrong because in few seconds the cycle ended up in a drain, and I was in the drain, landed in the drain, and my dignity in the drain. So, what I understood from this is that success is not when you reach the end line. Success is when you come out of those pit stops. And yes, I did have many pit stops in my life. I was 10, I lost my mother to cancer. I was 15, I lost my dad to cancer. And when I was 18, I myself was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And within 1 month, I lost my eyesight, hearing, speech, taste, paralysis on my right limbs. And doctors said I may not survive more than 3 months. This is what I was left with. So I had a choice. I was angry, but then I had a choice whether do I cry about it, I just have 3 months, or make the best of 3 months. I chose the latter because it's difficult, but it made me happy. And I went ahead, and within 9 months, I recuperated. All my other senses came back. In 2013, I went to LV Prasad Eye Institute, and that's where I got my rehabilitation training done. I learned how to use a white cane, to walk around, to navigate on the roads, to climb up the stairs, to walk across the potholes and speed breakers. Also, screen readers through which I can use computers, phone. It would speak back to me whatever I swiped on the screen. It would speak back to me. I learned this just because I thought maybe I'll find a job, maybe I'll fit somewhere. But little did I know that world had something else waiting for me. My experiences taught me that it's not easy. I know how to use a cane, but when I walk on the footpath, that was not accessible. It was not constructed with me in mind. I looked for jobs, and yes, these companies had digital tools. I could not use it because the screen reader was not accessible with those platforms. But yet, people called me disabled, people called me blind. Inaccessibility was overlooked. And another thing as I went on, I saw was I was looking out for solutions for my problems. Yeah, there are different problems. Simple problem. Imagine a brush, at the wash basin case. And there were four brushes or five brushes. Me as a blind person, how do I take the right brush? I don't want to take somebody else's brush, come on. But the simple solution, what I did was, I put a rubber band around my brush. So when I touched it, I knew it is my brush. And then I went on to other problem solving. I used to love artwork when I had eyesight, but I gave it up. And I realized that the paintings that were currently there, they were just two dimensional. As a person with visual impairment, I could not enjoy those paintings. Even if you put a Mona Lisa painting in front of me, I would say, ha, it's a white canvas, you know. So I wanted to come up with something that people with visual impairment can touch. And I started creating 3D art using aluminum foil. And how it happened, I was just playing with aluminum foil and I ended up making a dolphin shape. I realized, wow, I can use this like clay. And I layered it with paper. I would have this acrylic color tubes and I would color these 3D elements and glue it onto the canvas. And the beauty of it was, I myself was able to enjoy this painting. There were different themes. I'm a Harry Potter head, so Whomping Willow, the platform 9 and 3/4, Cinderella, all these became my paintings. And not only me, I was able to share this with other visually impaired persons who never saw art before. But one issue came in: how do I identify colors? I can't see right now in front of me. I can just see a blank screen and I feel like talking to an auditorium with no audience. So that is my eyesight, except for some light here and there. But how do I identify colors? The simple solution I came up with is I put all the red cubes together. I would make a shape of an apple with aluminum foil. I would touch that. I would realize, oh, this is red. But again, another problem came in. How do I identify if there were too many shades of red? That's when I thought of this simple idea: a smartphone app. We use smartphones, like I said, we have screen readers. Develop a smartphone app that will work with QR code. And it will be a blank QR code. As a user, I would need to record the customized description. So, my friend Vivian, he developed this app called Spacefield. And we were able to do that. Like, I was able to label my colors. And example, now when I scan this QR codes, it will say this is red color. I can use this for sunset or sunrise. So that's what happened. I was like, my problem gave rise to an idea. And I was very happy with it. Of course, Vivian had a lot of difficulties with me because I was a tricky and demanding user. And then came other experiences that I learned. Is once I went to a unigender washroom and there was something white in front of me. I mistook that to be a wash basin. I went close, I had my hands in it, and then I realized it was gents' urinals. And that hit me bad because this could happen to anyone. I mean, imagine closing your eyes, going to a washroom, and then ending up touching a gents' urinals. Another incident was I was doing my psychology. So when I did, it was the lab, and my professor was explaining to us about an equipment. So she was like, oh, this is where you put this, and here it goes, and this comes there. What am I supposed to understand? This, there, here, that? I got confused. All I requested was, ma'am, may I feel the equipment while you're describing? It would make it easy for me. But my professor simply said, an open statement. She said, why do they even allow visually impaired to take up such courses? It hit me again. So these experiences, again, told me that even public places are not accessible. And we brought in Spacewell to public places, as in it's a smartphone app, like I said, and we put this QR codes example on a classroom door. A visually impaired scans it, the audio will come, the voice will come that this is so and so classroom. The layout is like this, the furniture is arranged like this. If you take 11 steps to your right, you will find the cafeteria. If you take 10 steps to your left, you will find the faculty room. So we realized that our idea is solving a problem. And we realize also that not just educational institutions, we worked with workplaces, NGOs, art galleries. Imagine people coming to art galleries and experiencing art. people going to museums, people going to events. But the inaccessibility was not with visually impaired alone. At an event, it was all exhibitor stalls, and there were people who were hard of hearing. They could not talk to the exhibitor, neither the exhibitor could talk to the deaf persons. There was a communication gap. How do they talk? So that's when we again thought, how about bringing in sign language to our interface? That's how we brought in sign language. And to make it completely inclusive, as in everyone can use it, what we did was we got general textual information for public. So the text will be displayed. If you want, you can have brochures, you can have catalogs, you can have video links, you can have website links. So that's how we made our app inclusive. And in this journey, we never know when Spacewell became part of our startup Grailmaker innovations. But in all this, we also learned that there were many questions that we had to go through. How do we make a product good? How do we make a product better? So I realized that the first question that we were facing is addressing accessibility. So, yes, we were addressing the challenges that visually impaired people had, deaf and hard of hearing had. So, we were addressing that accessibility. So, that is the basis of why we developed our product. Second, became affordability. So we also realized that affordability, because of, accessibility should not be compromised because of accessibility. I mean, only fewer organizations can install your product. It may not really scale. With this thought, we said affordability is non negotiable. It has to be affordable. And third is reach. We had visually impaired that we were reaching to, deaf and hard of hearing persons, general public, but who else can we reach to? Then we realized that, the QR codes, even a person who cannot read is able to scan QR codes. So we realized this can be done by anyone, provided if we have customized language, providing local languages. Another thing, that last important thing, is the impact. Coming to the impact side of it, how much are we really able to create that experience for a great impact? And the answer came in because once we had an art gallery installed by the product, we realized that there were 65 visually impaired who, for the first time, was at an art gallery and enjoyed that experience. So, Spaceville was not just built around features, but it was built around questions from experience and empathy. This is what we believe. And Spacewell was originally, the thought of when the thought of Spacewell came in, we never thought of, starting having a startup. uh, it was to address my solutions, my problems as visually impaired, not just mine. There are many other visually impaired. Can you imagine a visually impaired coming all the way from Pune to Hyderabad all alone in the train, but not able to get off the platform to the exit just because the way was not accessible? Can you imagine a wheelchair user? Wheelchair is provided to him and is getting into a building, but there are no ramps. Can you imagine a deaf and hard of hearing persons being given a hearing aid, or they're not able to, but they're not able to communicate to the world outside because the world outside do not know sign language? And this is an everyday experience that people with disabilities have. And these are the experiences we learned in our entrepreneur journey, that it's not just about the product, it's not just about your startup, but your product should meet, fill all those empty gaps. And today, you guys are students here. And Tomorrow you'll be engineers, you'll be developing designs, you'll be developing products, systems, and spaces. I remember once giving feedback to a person. I know the way he created it, he created something, a wearable device during COVID time to maintain social spacing. Okay, social space, 6 feet distance, but we had to wear that headgear around the head, walk on the streets, and while we are walking, the siren would be going on our head. My only question was, I'm not an ambulance. Why would I even wear this? So, dignity is also important. So, when you think of all these aspects as tomorrow's engineers, it becomes easy for you to develop a product. And when you develop a product, ask one question: who am I missing out on? And the answer to that will definitely have you create a better product. Thank you so much.